Welcome back. We look forward, Be'ezus Hashem, continuing the Lahaskil Bina, known Perik Yud Aleph, Avigeres HaKadosh. I say known because, as we explained prior to the beginning of last week's class, as the entry into last week's class, that is, as we began this unique chapter, that it is very distinct of the Alter Rebbe's approach, what is meant to be the focus of the Yid as he serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as he implements his or her mandate, Alei Adonais, here in this world, what is meant to be their focus and what is not meant to be their focus. That's where this chapter is very distinct, not only to focus on our mission and our goal, on our objectives, but the Alter Rebbe makes it clear, therefore it comes out so much more stronger and more emphatic, the idea of the determination of the Yid to remain completely focused, 100% focused on their objectives and goals and so on, and not to have, the Alter Rebbe comes across with it, not as a person should not have any desires, motivations, and matters of this physical world. So we just began last week, we just learned the first part over here, which is just about 6 lines, 5.5 lines, and we're holding a Bina, which of course it needs explanation. It comes across very strong, and therefore it needs explanation. Therefore the Alter Rebbe immediately begins after saying that statement, say, Bina, we're going to explain. So, instead of, of course, no need to repeat this, which we spoke a little bit in elaboration, the distinctive approach of the Alter Rebbe in this chapter, how it's how it is so much more demanding, even more than any of the Alter Rebbe's expressions, which are quite demanding, as we learned in the Tanya Kadisha, in so many different ways. But this is different, and to understand a little, appreciate these words, just to tap into the previous class. We gave this one way, or somewhat an introduction and overall appreciation of this very unique chapter in the previous class, which is really lined up right there. And if you're watching it on the original web site, that is, which is tanyaonline.com, tanyaonline.com, all the classes are lined up on the left side, and the latter classes on the top. So to understand a little of this chapter, it is unique. Like also, it's known among Chassidim throughout all generations, because it is a game changer. It's a game changer in our whole approach to our Avodas Hashem. So we gave this introduction, we gave a little bit of this backdrop, that is, in the previous class. So it's a click away. No need, we could right away start a Bina. On the overall, we perhaps to mention it again, the beginning of, from time to time, we pointed out that this Igeres HaKadosh is, on the overall, it's different than the previous segments of the Alter Rebbe, Shaykh B'Muna, L'Kutei Amarim, Shaykh B'Muna, Igeres HaKadosh, where there all chapters are sequential, one following the other. Here it's letters, and each letter is sent at a certain time to a certain community or communities, even though, again, its relevance, of course, for posterity, all of Am Yisrael throughout all times, because this is, especially becomes part of the Chilik of part of Tanya Kadisha, written by the Alter Rebbe himself. But we can understand every Igeres, it's a letter, so it has a certain idea. We did mention again, time and again, that there is a common thread, or something which is very much underscored in all of Igeres HaKadosh, the mitzvah tzedakah we mentioned. So we gave a little bit of a introduction, or we took a few minutes to talk about this Igeres HaKadosh, the uniqueness of this segment, in the beginning of the 10th class, of the 10th chapter, that is. The beginning of the 10th chapter. Chapter 10 had a few classes, it's a lengthier chapter, relatively. But the first chapter, we had a little elaborate few notes on what the Igeres HaKadosh is all about. Backdrop also, tzedakah, white tzedakah underscored, based on the famous Aliyah, but a Mendel Haradokar. Again, you can see it there, no reason to repeat. Also, a click away, the first class of the 10th. We have, Baruch Hashem, we merited to conclude all the Likutei Amorim, Sheikh Muni Yigeres HaTshuva, and at this time we're holding in Yud Aleph and Yigeres HaKodesh. So they're all the classes are lined up. I mention this because periodically we do reference other chapters which give certain explanations of the topic we're learning. We did mention this there's always other areas which elaborate on certain ideas, which again it's a click away throughout the entire Tanya up till Yud Aleph of Yigeres HaKodesh. So that's TanyaOnline.com, or wherever you're watching it. It's easy to access today any chapter in Tanya, any idea which one wants to appreciate from this whole in this holy sefer. Ubir Hanyan, the explanation to this, and again to this, you could even use the word strong. It's a strong statement. Not only stay focused positively, but lo yeleshum ratzon acher. A person should have any desires in matter of elam hazeh. Again, you can see last week we took the whole class last week to learn these few lines as kind of the statement of the Alter Rebbe, which is a fundamental statement, understandably. Obir ha'inyan. So the explanation to this is, how could this be demanded of a human being? Basically, you could even elaborate on the question. Not only explanation to this, it needs explanation to implement this in practicality, in actuality. To ask from a human being such a request, lo yilashum ratz, don't have any desire in matters of elam hazeh, nor bana, nor chaya, nor mezena, which again the whole package of elam hazeh. Again, take a look at last week's class. The details of the Rebbe comes across very strong. So, what is the explanation to this? He says that that a yid has true faith in the Creator of the world. It's an expression, Yetzer Bereshis. Bereshis is the famous Bereshis, Bara Likim Shemai Bara, Hashem being a creator of heaven and earth. So the Creator, the one who formed Bereshis, the entire world, the entire creation, of true faith in Hashem, the Yetzer Bereshis. Chochmah, the creation, which is something from nothing, the ex nihilo phenomenon, which is also why the Alter Rebbe uses the Lashon Bereshis. So you say Yetzer Bereshis is the creator of Bereshis, Bara Likim Shemai V'Zad is heaven and earth. But no, Yetzer Bereshis, Reshis is the Reshis Chochmah. We know Chochmah of an Hashem Sfiris. We spoke about it a number of times. Perhaps even to reference over here, the third chapter in Likutei Amorim, the first time the Alter Rebbe notes what is the Sfir of Chochmah about. Later also he has it in famously, which is maybe more relevant over here, the end of Yud Ches in Likutei Amorim. Also click away the end of the 18th chapter in Likutei Amorim, the first segment as well. This is the Chochmah, this is the Hashem's Chochmah. Other places also, Alter Rebbe touches Reishis Chochmah. So really, Reishis Chochmah, we should never forget, whenever we touch anything, in any other translation, in any pasuk, in any word, it's always good to know the interpretation of any other pasuk or any phrase in Torah by those who brought out this deeper chelik in Torah, or any time a real Kaddish and Gadol B'Yisrael touched a certain pasuk a certain way. It's always good to know the simple meaning of the pasuk. Reishis Chochmah Midas Hashem. The beginning of the wisdom is to fear God. Of course, there's depth in that statement as well. But the Reishis of Chochmah is to be Yiras Hashem, to be the God-fearing. The Alter Rebbe puts a pause right after Chochmah. Reishis Chochmah. Chochmah is the Reishis, first of all, on the surface. It's the first sphere. The Reishis is Chochmah. But the Alter Rebbe says it's deeper over here, because Reishis is the Chochmah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ein Museg Ez Shum Nibra B'Riah Zayis. He B'Chaleis V'Rega Shem Yishav Kol B'Rim. In other words, the Alter Rebbe explains it in different places that the Reishis, this which is closest to the infinite dimension or the infinite dynamic of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is of course something which is beyond perception. There's to connect to that is only emunah, only faith, because how could a finite human being appreciate and understand the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite dynamics of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Blessed be He. It's impossible. So Chochmah is the Reishis, which is the beginning, is the interface, if you will, between all the other spheres and the Ein Sof. Therefore, Chochmah is really connected constantly to the Ayin, to that Ein Sof. You see it also in Perek Lamed Hey, in the famous Haggadah of the Alter Rebbe, Kasher Shamaiti Meiri V'Rabbi, what I heard of my masters. Chochmah is the conduit to the Echad HaEmes, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, to the absolute truth of the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Chochmah is that Reishis, which eventually the spheres will evolve or continue, more structured spheres, while Chochmah is more connected to the Ein Sof. Therefore, Chochmah is represented by the Yud. Yud is a small letter because it's not about elaboration of the Keli. To the contrary, it's no broadness of the Keli because it's so connected to something greater, deeper, higher, infinite. That's the Chochmah. That's what Chochmah is called the Reishis. For that matter, Chochmah is Chochmah. It's a Koyach like what? What means say it's the intangibility of Chochmah vis-a-vis Bina, which is more understanding, expansiveness. Chochmah, though, it's the original flash. For that matter, the acuity of Chochmah you cannot compare, even when you have something expansive in an elaborate and expansive and a broad manner in the world, in the sphere of Bina, can't compare it to that sharpness which exists in Chochmah. We explained it many times. You're looking into something, trying to understand something, you're putting your mind to it, and all of a sudden, the words shine. Couldn't understand that sentence. What does it mean? And all of a sudden, you got the idea. The words, the insight is it strikes you like a lightning. That's why it's called Borak HaMavrik in Kabbalah and Chassidus, like a lightning, very bright. Lightning lights up the sky. But if you're walking with somebody and someone asks you, yeah, wow, you just demonstrated this awe of this great delight which you experienced. Could you show it to me? No, I can't show it to you because it came and left. When you understand on a level of Chochmah, you can't yet repeat it because you didn't allow it to come through, to filter through the cognitive faculty of Bina, which is about expansiveness, putting everything into place. And now you know it, you really know it, so you can say it over, you can repeat it, you could explain it to another party. That's only when you have it in the world of Bina. But it says a number of places and we could experience, but that clarity, that's the flash. There's something very special about a flash. The whole brightness comes right at you, and that sharpness, that acuity, which exists precisely in the area of Chochmah. Despite its disconnect from the being settled and expansively settled in your mind, which would be associated with Bina, it still has a certain sharpness, a certain clarity, like a lightning, very bright. It gives a shine, it gives a very strong strike at you, even though it still needs to be worked on through the faculty of Bina. So Chochmah, the reason is Chochmah, that's why it's called Chochmah. What? Show it to me. It's like it's intangible, but it's intangible because of its loftiness, its connection to the Ein Sof, and that's why it's called the Reishis Chochmah. It's Chochmah associated with the Reishis, which therefore any museg is a shumira. It cannot be perceived to no created entity. And therefore, because this world is created yesh me'ayin, something from this ayin, from this reishis, so therefore, the bria itself, the creation itself, can also not be, there can't be a full comprehension, understanding, and perception in the details and the makeup of this very physical world. I don't understand how this is so, or how this is so, or for that matter, how that happened to me. Yeah, you understand nothing of this creation, because this creation is yesh me'ayin. From that Reishis Chochmah, which is connected to the Ayin Ha'amiti, and there, of course, how could it's beyond understanding. For that matter, the whole phenomenon of understanding, perception, is a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if you don't understand, so therefore, it doesn't, the whole idea that the Rebbe once wrote in a letter to somebody, very, very poignant and message was very strong. He said, "Emphasis to the contrary. The novelty is when you do understand, because how could a creative being understand creation, which is connected to a level which is beyond and transcendent of perception, understanding, and appreciation? So the chidush is when you do understand, when things make sense, because by default it shouldn't. Because this bria, which is yesh me'ayin, is in a masag can never be understood. And that is because someone's going to say, yeah, maybe at the first time of creation, the first moment of creation, then there was the direct connection of the source of the ayin. So then things were more, so to say, this ayin manifestation beyond perception, beyond understanding. But later things settle in, everything finds its spot, and somewhat the bria on its own, someone has a certain disconnect from that ayin, and therefore things should start making sense. You're living in a world, don't you pursue rationale, reason, rhyme, and sense, and so on, and especially maybe now it's not so much connected to that ayin phenomenon. Comes the Alter Rebbe and says, if you learn Sharicha V'Emunah, which is again, we have lined up over here, especially the first chapter Sharicha V'Emunah. I mean, that's the whole message, basically in Sharicha V'Emunah. But the first chapter, it comes across very, very specific. Brings from this Medrash Tilim, quoted by the Baal Shem Tov, Pirush Baal Shem Tov. It made it clear to us. And the Eibishter's Chayes, it's not that Hashem created the world in the 6 days of creation and then creation moves on its own, which would perhaps, one would argue, okay, now creation has to start making sense. It's not connected to that Reishis that much, to the Ein Sof that much. Everything, found its place in as part of creation. Not a total disconnect from Creator. Creator is always in charge still, but still, there's a certain, you can't compare it to the very beginning of creation when the Chochmah, the Reishis, was so evident, and therefore not necessarily creation could make sense of any Eilam, particularly this Eilam Hazeh. But now things are different because we're so many years away from the time Hashem created all Eilam, all worlds in this world when we're talking about Eilam Hazeh, which we find ourselves doing our service in this very physical world. Neshama biguf, a neshama invested in body. Comes out to Rebbe and says, no. Again, this is the fundamental of the Alter Rebbe, which is based actually in Medrash Tilim. Alter Rebbe elaborates on this. It says Pirush Baal Shem Tov. He calls Baal Shem Tov because Baal Shem Tov was the first to take the Medrash Tilim and make it, they say, Pirush, Fanandri Giklim. Any meaning to say that he made it accessible, that it should resonate in human mind, that Hashem not only created the world once, back then in 6 days of creation, Hashem creates the world constantly. The letters of the Asara Mamoris, the 10 sayings to which Hashem created the world, Hashem spoke creation into being, those letters exist constantly. Every moment Hashem continues to create all elements in this very physical world. And if Hashem holds back the energy of those letters, the world wouldn't just fall apart, look different, decay. No, it would disappear, turn into nothing. Nothing is nothing at all. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was constantly creating. Every moment Hashem continues to create. So just like at the beginning of creation, the creation is yesh me'ayin, and it's connected to that Chochmah, the Chochmah, which is connected to the Ein Sof, which is impossible to perceive, understand, and have any connection. In other words, rational connection to, or connection to on a rational level. And therefore, one could never believe that they should be able to understand and make sense and find reason within creation, that my mind should make sense of it, because the whole creation is coming from an area of ayin, of chochmah, which is inconceivable, incomprehensible. This exists constantly because Hashem is constantly creating the world. in the exact same fashion, exact same manner as when he created the world in the 6 days of creation. So what we remain is just with emunah, with faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But this doesn't make sense to me. How could this happen? It should have been different. Well, in your mind, it should have been different. And that's fine. God gave us intellect. He wants us to make sense of things. And generally live an organized life to find reason or rhyme, and this is what we do. And this is what we stay away from doing. And of course, it cannot be totally predicated on reason and rhyme. A Yid would only rely on reason and seichel. He would definitely, easily veer off the path of Torah mitzvah. The reason why we're here is because our complete submission to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even it doesn't make sense. But the concept of living a life of seeking reason and rhyme and the overall, it's fine. But when you come to a certain dead end and you say, whoa, it was meant to be different and it should have been different, how could we? Well, at that point you realize the whole creation is coming from the Reishis Chochmah, which is connected to the Ayin. And it's imbued by the Ayin, which is the Ein Sof, which is beyond Seichel, beyond perception. So, if you don't make sense of it, okay. You continue to believe. The Amunah v'Yetzer B'Reishis. Because every moment, which gives life to everything on a constant basis. Therefore, when man will ponder with the depth of an understanding of his perception, he'll form in his mind. He himself, he or she is created, they themselves, not only the world around them, you are created every moment together with all of creation. From yesh mi'ayin, in the same manner of ex nihilo, you're coming from that ayin, and every single moment. How could you ever think that things are no good, that things are bad? When someone would endure any tickle, if you will, or chas v'sholem beyond that, in areas of children, life, parnasa, or shar yisurim ve'ilmaz, or other affliction of pain in this world, how could you think that this is, by definition, bad? This ayin, this is Hashem's Chochmah. This is part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the source of life. Blessed be He, Yisbarich. The source of life, the source of good, the source of pleasure, the source of delight, the Eidin Shalom, which is even higher than Elam Haba, for that matter. It says Elam Haba is associated with Elam Habriya. Now, a quick reference, definitely good to look into Perek Lametes, Mem. There, this idea of the connection of Bina to Elam Haba, Kuti Amarim, the first segment. Very briefly, what does it say in Elam Haba? Neshama is Neni Miziv Ashchina. Yeshvin v'Neni Miziv Ashchina. They sit and they derive pleasure from the ray of the Shechina. What would you connect it to? Chochmah or Bina? Of course, Bina. Bina is expansiveness. And then you're talking about expansiveness in any subject, lahavdil, in matters of Elam Haza. But expansiveness in matters of Torah, for example, it's all about Bina. You understand it. You learn a Gemara. Of course, it starts with Chochmah, but the right way to learn is Bina, which is understanding, thoroughly understanding a matter. That's the way you learn Torah. Now, in Gan Eden, when we understand the matters deeper and with greater pleasure, for that matter, this is Galus Atik Bina, even down here, and the more you understand something, the more you're connected to the Kayach of Tainug, of pleasure, delight. The more you appreciate something in its maximum detail, the more you have delight and pleasure in this subject that you're learning, in this perception, experience of perception. So in Elam Haba, when Nisham is Yesh Meneni, because It's a full, expansive learning experience, and again, learning at a different level, and it's full of delight, and that's why it's nani. So of course, you associate it with Bina. So it says, Bina ilah of Atzilus mikanena bekursayo. It nests in Hashem's throne, which in Kabbalah that would be Olam HaBriya. Therefore it says, Olam HaBriya is Gan Eden HaElyon. Olam HaYitzira is Gan Eden HaTachtin. It's also in Shabbos Nen, Yeshem Nen, Miziv HaShechina. But Olam HaBriya is the real highest level within Gan Eden. But it's associated with Bina of Atzilus. Bina of Atzilus nests in Gan Eden, because that's what Gan Eden is all about, especially Gan Eden HaElyon. The notion of Bina. Neshamis Yeshem Nen, Miziv HaShechina. So here we're talking about the Chochmah, which is not only one level higher. As we mentioned, the Chochmah is connected to the Ein Sof. Chochmah, it's connected to the Ein Sof itself. It's not just a bit higher, one level higher than the experience of Elam Haba. It's totally different idea completely. This is the Eibishter himself. So this is the ultimate Eden, the ultimate delight, the ultimate Tainug. It says Tainug is the deepest part, which could be experienced of a nafshiistic experience, a soul type of experience, as we all know it. Tainug, delight, pleasure is the deepest expression of the soul. Tainug, rotzin, then begins the 10 faculties of Chabad and Midas, but Tainug. And that's the Eden Shalamayla, Shalamayla, even higher than Elam Haba. This is the Chochmah. Chochmah mi'ayin timatzeh. Explained so many places, it's distinct. It's not just one sphere higher than Bina. Chochmah is a different idea. Because Chochmah is connected to the Ayin HaAmiti, to the Ein Sof, infinite light, and that is what is vitalizing the entire Elam Haza from the 6 days of creation, every single, not only every single week, every single day, every single moment, every single millisecond, every moment Hashem is pumping His energy and creating His energy. The Ein Sof, via Chochmah, the Reishis Chochmah, which continues to create, which is, again, associated with the energy of the Ein Sof, infinity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you want to understand why this is happening, why that's happening. So we always mention, shall this always remain a conceptual concept? Shall this always remain a insight that we're learning about? The Eibusher should bless every single Yid. If it rational or not rational, every Yid should have abundance of Bina, an abundance of Chaya, an abundance of Mezayna. Like the Gemara says, Adli Dai, and it says usually Revicha, an expansiveness and an abundance. Adli Dai, as the Rebbe used to say, his statement was V'kulam Revicha, abundance in all. The Alter Rebbe writes in Peter Miketz, what a beautiful expression of the Alter Rebbe, that there's no Yid which doesn't deserve the entire Elam Haza. The Rebbe brings from Chochmah, he walked 4 steps. Hashem gave him Malchus royalty for 4 generations. Ein Loch Adam, there's no Yid, says the Alter Rebbe, that didn't do more for the Eibishter. Buchanetz, Kol Elam Haza, the whole Elam Haza, he's deserving, with the greatest brachas. And in every area, over kulam revicha. So we like to underscore, the Eibusher should bench everybody with everything. And this should remain a concept. Yeah, let it just remain a concept, but the concept is there. That I want to understand why this is happening to me, why this is happening to me. And I want to define it as something evil. Things are terribly happening. There's a lot of evil coming towards my way. One would suggest. Really? That moment which you're living now and breathing now is coming from the core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the level of Eden Shalamayla Me'elam Haba, the Chochmah, the core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is, of course, the ultimate good, the source of life. And that's what's giving you life right now, and you're defining it as bad. God forbid. And therefore, the problem is Ein Musa. The problem is that I don't get it. I can't identify. It's hard to identify. We're put in a world that one is told, you drive your car, don't drive on the sidewalk, drive on the street, stop by a stop sign. We have to try to make sense as much as we can. And therefore, anything which is beyond sense, it doesn't resonate naturally. Ein Musa, you don't understand. Therefore, So it appears this is considered evil, difficult, or bad, translate, not bad. Or Yisurim, where it's an affliction of pain. It's coming from Hashem. And Hashem is the ultimate Tov, Hashem is the ultimate good. And the Chayis, which is right now being pumped into Elam Haza, is coming from that core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Rashis, which is connected to the Ein Sof. So there's no evil coming from above. By definition, B'Kol Tov, everything is absolutely good. The problem is, Ein Musik L'Goylei. You cannot perceive it because of its depth, because of its grandeur, composition, because it's connected to the Ein Sof of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's like the light. You want to read a book and you're going to put on this light which is going to be overwhelmingly bright. You won't be able to read anything. It'll just disturb you because it's so bright. The sun would be closer but to the earth, as everything would have been consumed into the heat, into the gases of the sun, the brightness of the sun, and so on. So everything has to be in moderation. In this case, it's Ein Musa because of its greatness, because it's the expression of the Ein Sof itself, the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu itself. And V'Rav Tuvei, it's the overwhelming Tov of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we as mortal human beings, which are comprised of intellect, understanding, and trying to make sense, to give reason and rhyme to everything we come across in Elam Haza. So because I cannot perceive this matter, because of its profundity, because it's associated, or it is the energy of the infinity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you talk about the infinite of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course that's the real bleak vul air. That's the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So my mind cannot perceive it. So I twist it and I say, I cannot perceive it, and therefore it appears to me that this is bad unfolding, or Yisurim, or affliction of pain. No, Ein Ra'yer Imamaylo. Hashem, there is no inherent evil above. Everything is really Tov, everything is good, but you cannot perceive it because of its greatness. And the Rav Tuvei, it's overwhelming, so that's why you define it, and therefore, so we move on with Emunah. We learn generally this concept, and we follow along, we navigate matters of our experiences with pure faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, I don't understand. Okay, so many other things I don't understand, especially in this area, how the world is conducted. It should have been like this, it should have been like that. Everybody has these things in mind, and rightfully so. Why are the wicked so successful? Why are people who are just suffer so much? I mean, this is a question Moshe Rabbeinu had. Okay, so I don't understand. But that's not where it stops. It all has to be based in the Emunah b'Yetzer Bereshis, in the pure faith. And therefore, as he continues, this is the main idea of faith, that man was created lahamin, to believe, there's no place of the void of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the light of the face of the King of Life which is coming towards me and I'm connected to, because this is the soul energy which comes into creation. And therefore strength and joy in his place. It's joy and delight, because you're talking about it, and God, which is Tov Kol Hayom, which is good all the time, not periodically good, but all the time, because he is inherently good, and he is the one which is vitalizing every moment of creation. There's no place to say, here he left, and therefore this energy gathered, which was causing me these difficulties. No, there's no place which is devoid of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's good all the time. And if I don't understand it, I'll try to make sense of it, but the moment I come to that dead end, okay, it's Emunah, it's faith. So if I don't understand it, that doesn't redefine what it really is. To the contrary, if I don't understand it, that I enter into a space to what it is truly all about, which is about God, infinite energy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be He, which is transcendent understanding, transcendent appreciation. So, when I connect to the Mokim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's always strength, and it's always delight, and it's always about joy and elation. So, we'll stop over here to Baval Kain. We mentioned last week the end message of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe ends off this chapter, very important again to reiterate this ultimate message of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says that when a Yid would have proper perspective, or a Yid's having proper perspective on reality, on his experience in life, everything will turn around. And it'll manifest in a revealed and an apparent way. The way it makes sense to us, the goodness makes sense to us. Hashem just wants perspective. And the moment Hashem sees we align our mind with a proper perspective, as Alter Rebbe says, everything turns around. Koil nasa koil toiv gam begoloi. Quote, everything comes, is ultimate, unfolds, and is manifest also in a revealed manner, that we, as human beings, appreciate the toiv, and we know how we appreciate the toiv, that it ultimately manifests the toiv, hanira, vanigla, in a apparent good, in a revealed good, shall it be on a constant basis